Welcome back to Talking with Doyle with State Representative Doyle Heffley. As always, we're joined by the indomitable Hunter Kipe and the disembodied voice of producer Chuck. Doyle, what are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about a little bit of everything. Quite honestly, we've had a week here in Harrisburg. It's April 24th. It's a Thursday. We're generally not in session on Thursday, but obviously this is the first time since I've been in office that we've actually been in Easter week, but we were in Tuesday, Wednesday.
Is that really?
Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week. It was a little bit different. And not a very productive week, disappointing. But quite honestly, with the majority makeup in the State House, the less productive they are, probably the better it is for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
But since nothing was done, what was talked about? Anything intriguing? Anything crazy?
Well, we did a resolution recognizing Poetry Month. Look, I mean, these resolutions are important to somebody, right? And poetry is important, obviously, as are some of the other financial literacy resolution we did, making sure that schools are teaching financial literacy.
Which is important, for sure.
Yes. I think there's a caucus, and maybe the majority caucus and the governor could use a little bit of financial literacy when we're looking at the budget spend and depleting reserve funds. But other than that, no, I mean, it really was not a very productive week here. Obviously, the majority, the Democrat majority in the State House is moving the process very slow. We are heading into May and June, which is budget month.
But why do you think that's even happening? Why are they moving so slowly on things? Things need to get done.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of issues out there, but there's just a lot of, I think they have a lot of proposals that, I mean, they're trying to push the governor's, quote, lightning proposal, which is just another tax on utility bills. It'll be about a $2.5 billion tax on electric consumers. And this coupled with some of the PGM rulings that have come out and the so-called deal that the governor made with PGM, which is going to actually jack up costs for Pennsylvania consumers as an energy-producing state. But aside from that, I mean, this week we moved some things out of committees. There's a lot of resolutions. I had a resolution we were trying to get done this week, which I run every year, recognizing Jim Thorpe, the athlete, for his birthday. We always do a program. Actually, it's going to be May 17th. It'll be at 10:30 a.m. at the Mausoleum. They'll do a program there in Jim Thorpe, and recognizing Jim Thorpe for his birthday. They'll have the Native American dancers will be there performing and do a program honoring what probably was the greatest athlete America has ever produced in Jim Thorpe.
So what was the controversy with the resolution now, even though you've done this so many times before?
Yeah, we've run this resolution. It's a bipartisan resolution, actually started by my predecessor. It's the same language. And there's just some progressive, very woke members of the Democratic caucus, which wanted to load up the resolution with a whole bunch of other things that really wasn't intended. What we really want to do is recognize the athlete, Jim Thorpe. I mean, he overcame a lot of adversities in his life. I mean, he was born a Native American. Obviously, at that time, it was a different culture, a different world. And he lost his twin brother at a very young age. He went on to then go to the Carlisle Indian School, it was called at the time, and discovered by legendary Pop Warner, and got him involved in sports, and was really just a phenomenal athlete. Then went on to become an Olympic champion in 1912 Olympics. And then we all know the story, how the Olympic Commission then stole or took away his gold medals.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
You told me that the other day. I had no idea that they took away his gold medals.
Yeah, so it was deemed that he had played, he was reimbursed for some costs when he played minor league baseball. And it really was just motivated by probably the fact that he was a Native American, right? It was the time frame. He then went on to be he was like the first president of the National Football League.
Yeah.
He was an incredible football player, baseball player, basketball player, and just an all-around athlete, and just a remarkable story. And later on, after his death, he was then buried in the town of Mock Chunk as they consolidated. There was a sports writer who proposed to the town that they recognized Jim Thorpe for his athletic abilities and the man that he was, and renamed the town of Mock Chunk after Jim Thorpe, and have his final resting place be in Jim Thorpe. And there was an agreement made with his family at that time, and he's been there, and they're continuing to put up statues. So if you're watching this and you haven't been to Jim Thorpe, and people come to Jim Thorpe for a lot of reasons, definitely take the time to go up to see the mausoleum where Jim Thorpe is buried, and the different statues. Money has been raised by the community and different nonprofit organizations, and their statues recognizing all the different sports that he participated in, but also the Olympics, the discus, and he was winner of the pentathlon. So it's really fitting to him. And anytime you go to Jim Thorpe, you'll see a constant line of tourists and buses that kind of drive through that area. And visit
the trolley too.
Yeah, visit the gravesite. So it's a shame we weren't able to do that resolution this year, but it is what it is, and there's just some woke members of the Democratic caucus that don't really want to see that happen. But we're going to be there on May 17th at 10:30 a.m. to recognize Jim Thorpe and honor him on his birthday and be part of that celebration. And we'll have a nice certificate from my office and the state here to commemorate that.
No, that's great. But speaking of Jim Thorpe, would you be able to give a quick update on the brush fire that happened this week?
Yeah, we spoke about it earlier this week. We had put out some posts on Facebook, and it was a really really scary for quite a while. But as of right now, the fire is, I think, 95 or 98% contained. And they're just kind of doing what mop-up operation. And there may be some flare-ups in the containment zone where there's some hot spots yet.
But that's expected, right?
Yeah, that's
no one should be really alarmed if they do see
now,
that.
if you see it expanding or growing, or if you see a fire or somewhere, and we still are in a very, we still have a burn ban. We're in a very dangerous time right now for forest fires. Obviously, before the leaf cover comes on the trees, when you have this many leaves down on the ground, and we have a lot of dead timber out there as well, with losing all the hemlock trees to the woolly adelgia, kind of a blight on hemlock. So we have a lot of dead hemlocks that are falling over and laying in the woods. We also have a lot of the ash tree from the emerald ash borer, which kind of wiped out the ash trees. So there's a lot of fuel for fires on the forest floor. So what happens is, usually in the spring, once you lose that snowpack until the leaf cover comes over, if you don't have a lot of rain, it's a very high risk of brush fires. That's why you primarily see brush fires in the spring and in the fall in northeastern part of the United States and in Pennsylvania. So when that leaf cover comes on, that canopy, then when you do get rain, it holds the moisture on the forest floor and under the forest, and keeps the temperatures down a little bit, so you don't see that, all that dry fuel that's right to ignite. So we still have a couple of weeks till that happens, and now this year, if the gypsy moth are bad, that could impact that as well. So I think most municipalities and townships have a burn ban currently in Carbon County, and I just ask people to respect that and be diligent until we get through this. Because like me, many residents in Carbon County may have a fire a fire pit out back. We do have a nice fire pit, and we keep the zone a nice space around that. And we like to have campfires periodically throughout the summer months as we have friends over to entertain. And that's all well and good. You can do that, but just be mindful of if there is a burn ban.
And it's just been so windy lately, like it hasn't been helping it. But I remember seeing it on Facebook. Obviously, I'm from Carbon County, and there were so many pictures of, a full blaze just right across from, you could see it from Race Street there. But you did calm my nerves when you said, well, that was actually controlled. Like that was intentional. Can you explain more of that? Because I thought that was really interesting. Yeah,
so it has been a fascinating couple of weeks. I've learned more about forest fires than maybe I wanted to know. So after the fires had started on Saturday we were at an event, a family event, and I seen the smoke go, and heard the calls go out, and the local responders responded to that fire and had grown. I think it's a suspicious fire, so it is under investigation because there was several locations that fueled it. But with that aside, the fire it was very windy, very warm, sunny, low humidity, perfect for a fire like that to grow. And then on Sunday, I had gone up, the DCNR had come in, the forestry department. So what happens is the local volunteers, go out, the first responders, and then as the fire grew, they called in for additional support from the state. So DCNR comes in, and they had their command center set up on Flagstaff Mountain, had a great view of where the fire was on Bear Mountain. They were calling in the helicopters and planes, and then they had dispatched fire crews to work a fire line around it and try to set up a perimeter. So when a forest fire starts like that, they can't really hike up and down that terrain to put the fire out. If anybody, you drive down here, you look up Bear Mountain, there's no way you're going to hike up there with a
it's
pack
very
of water.
rocky and it's very steep, that mountain.
Yeah. So they set up a perimeter. They cut in some bulldozer lines. And they try to take access points already. There's some fire lines cut in, and they try to expand that. And then they clear back the fuel. So by the fuel, it's the leaf pack. So they were up there with leaf blowers and rakes and everything, trying to create a barrier where they can stop the fire. So the fire would burn to that point, and then wouldn't be able to continue to grow. So that's what they mean by when they say containment. That's what they're trying to do, is contain the fire into an area, so that they know they can't put it out in that area, but let the fire run out of fuel and burn out. And that's what those containment zones. And then they call in the helicopters and the planes to make airdrops in those hot spots to kind of slow the fire down. So they had done that on Saturday. The fire was continuing to grow because it was extremely windy on Saturday and Sunday. And then really, it wasn't until Monday, there was also a lot of activity. Monday morning that we had the cloud cover come in, and the humidity got a lot higher, and the wind stopped, and they were really able to get a hand on it. There was a couple dwellings over in Long Run area and on Silk Street in the back of Jim Thorpe, which were the fire had gotten very close to. And
but no structures were destroyed
no
based
structures
on the fire.
were. So I really want to commend our local volunteers, local firefighters and first responders for coming out, because when it got close to the dwellings, that's when your local crews were out there. So the state has a system where you have state forestry forest fighters, and they train, and they come out and they respond through DCNR to these forest fires. So that leaves the burden off your local volunteers. But also, a lot of our local volunteers also worked for the forestry department and go to fires in other parts. So that we had so there was kind of a mix of people that were out there. And then when they needed additional help, that's when they called out the local volunteers, because there were also dwelling fires, car accidents, and everything else that our local volunteers respond to on a regular basis. So it freed them up to do that and really push that burden, or push the workload onto the forest fire teams.
No, that's great. But looking ahead, it is April 24th that we mentioned earlier, but looking ahead, we're back in session on Monday, May 5th. What do you hope to see? I mean, it's going to be June very quickly. What do you hope to see that gets discussed on the House floor? Any ideas on budget items? What do you think, or what do you hope to expect to see in the next couple weeks?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the budget and a lot of meetings. Obviously, being in the minority party in the State House, even though it's a one-seat minority, it means a lot.
Yeah.
So trying to get those leverage points where we can try to get things, have influence over the budget. Obviously, as chairman of the Human Service Committee, it's concerning to me to see some of the needs that are in human services. Home health care workers. These are the folks that come out and work with people that need a nurse or need a home health care worker to come in and maybe help get them out of bed, get them bathed, maybe go to the bathroom. Sometimes they require 24 hours, and it's to assist people in living in their own homes, because it's better for them, and it's better for costs than rather being in a nursing facility. There are people that need that level of care. But the reimbursement rates have not really been increased for a long time. So really looking at where do we prioritize the spending. Last year's budget, I voted no on it. The governor had a $400 million wham that he put in for himself to just go around the state and hand out money. That $400 million could have went a long way to provide other resources, some of them in human services and some of them in other things. And I think at the end of the day, philosophically, when I look at the budget, how do we prioritize where we spend those dollars? And I've always been one that I felt that we have people that needs a certain level of care in our community. And as a conservative and as somebody that values that, we want to make sure that those individuals with intellectual disabilities, those people that have opportunities in their life, that we're taking care of them, that we're funding those. And also then that we're providing opportunities for businesses and for entrepreneurs to grow our economy, because government doesn't create jobs. If I hear one time, if we put more money here, if government gets out of the way and we get these bureaucrats off the back of the entrepreneurs and the businesses in our community, they will grow the economy, they will increase the jobs, and then at the end of the day, you have that tax revenue that comes back, and we'll have money to fully fund these programs, and that's how you grow the economy. Raising taxes overspending in government, as we've seen from the disastrous Biden administration and what they did with $1 trillion in spending. Some of the money still sitting around hasn't been spent, drove inflation up 8-9%, really crushed the consumers here throughout the nation and in Pennsylvania. So we need to be responsible. And I think, unfortunately, our governor and the Democratic caucus continues to pursue those failed policies, the same thing that failed at the national level under Biden. That's what they want here, increase in spending down all the reserves. And at the end of the day, you're looking at the out years having to have massive tax increases or major budget cuts. So we want to make sure that we can try to do everything we can to prevent that, working with our partners in the Senate, which is controlled by the Republicans, and the State House to get a more responsible budget that takes care of the needs that we need here, that we have here in Pennsylvania, but at the same time provides opportunities for private sector growth to increase those revenues coming into the Commonwealth.